releasing an art book.
Perfect. Hello everyone, welcome to this 3D Total interview, and today we have the amazing and phenomenal Kelogsloops. Yay! Like I said, I've been looking forward to this interview. I cannot believe it. The time has finally come. We're finally getting an art book. I am so excited for this interview, but before I get ahead of myself, do you want to take your time to introduce yourself for anyone who isn't familiar with your work? I highly doubt it. I mean, but just take your time, introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, and tell us about your artistic journey, how you became the artist that you are today. Just tell us a bit about that.
Okay, cool. So my name's Hugh Nguyen. I'm an artist from Melbourne, Australia. I'm 28 years old, and I've been drawing for as long as it took a second to think about how old I am. I've been drawing since as long as I can remember, but I always talk about this one story, and the distinct memory is that when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my brother's girlfriend at the time, she taught me how to draw a Sailor Moon, like an anime character, and I remember just thinking at the time it was mind-blowing that I could just draw character from a circle and a triangle and a square into like a real person face. And ever since then I've been drawing non-stop, and that brings us flash forward 23 years and now I'm a full-time professional artist and I do watercolor paintings. That's a synopsis. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm thankful for her. Thank you so much. If you're watching this video, she's probably not, but thank you for doing this. Like I mentioned, I am so excited. It's a pleasure getting to talk with you, and it's a pleasure getting to have this interview with you. So before we dive into the book, I want to know a bit more about your inspirations and just about your current inspirations and your past inspirations. Like you said, she taught you how to draw Sailor Moon growing up, but what were the other things that made you be like, okay, actually I think I want to do this, this is what inspires me, I think I want to become an artist. Let's talk a bit about that.
Well, I mean, so ever since I started drawing the Sailor Moon characters back when I was a kid, I've always been exposed to anime shows, cartoons, because I have 4 older brothers. So they were always watching things like Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z and Cardcaptor Sakura, a lot of anime shows, a lot of cartoons. So I was overly influenced by just seeing animated characters, animated designs, also even movies like Studio Ghibli films, even the games my brothers played. I watched them play a lot of is it right if I just mention the names? I don't know if people know.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, okay. Well, they played a lot of Ragnarok, Warcraft, Final Fantasy, and I think a lot of these games kind of shaped the kind of genre of drawings and things that I like to draw. So I ended up drawing a lot of female characters, a lot of Japanese influence, anime characters, all of that kind of thing. So that was. Yeah, that's always been what's been my main influence from a kid to even to this day. So even to this day, I draw a lot of anime characters, and you can probably see the influence in my art style. So I draw a bit of semi-realism with a touch of anime inspiration. Still very prevalent, but I guess in my older years, or more so now, I'm influenced by a lot of artists a lot of social media artists. So I follow artists like Lois van Baal. She's a Dutch artist, incredible, beautiful, insanely talented digital artist. I'm influenced by Agnes Cecile, who is this Italian watercolor painter. She was the one who inspired me to start watercolor in the first place, and is the reason why I paint and I do what I do now. So there's 2 massive inspirations. Then I can just name 100 other artists, but don't want to bore you. So there's probably 2 iconic ones.
So many iconic. They're right now with social media, just so many amazing artists that every time I'm discovering a new artist, I'm what? I always feel some sort of undercover artist when I find an artist who hasn't really taken off yet. I'm gonna follow you, and I'm gonna be one day in the future when you finally do take off, I'm gonna be I followed you since day one, and I feel so special.
OG.
Exactly. But actually, speaking of social media, you have a YouTube channel which is extremely successful. That's why I said I'm sure anyone watching this video is already familiar with you. Can you tell us a bit about like your decision to start a YouTube channel, why you decided to start that, how it's going, and like just your whole experience being like a content creator in general.
Yeah. So the YouTube channel happened as a secondary thing. So at the time, I was only just sharing my work online on digital forums like DeviantArt and on Instagram, and I got often asked questions like, how do you do X, Y, Z? How do you paint this? How do you draw that? And so I wanted to film some of my painting processes, kind of a bit of a tutorial for people who wanted to learn as well and kind of see what I was doing. And at first, I just did little like time lapses of my digital art, so just from start to finish, and people liked those, so I kept sharing them. And eventually, I started doing watercolor, and a lot of these questions that I got asked a lot was, "Are you a?" People would get confused about my gender, so I would get asked things like, because my work's very feminine, it's very soft and dainty at the time, and I'd always get asked, "Oh, is Kelogsloops a boy or a girl?" Because I was a faceless artist.
Yeah.
And I'd always get referred to as a her, so I'd get comments like, "Oh, I love her work. It's so beautiful. Oh, she's," and my friends would always make fun of me for it. So then I started. There was one video I made when I introduced myself to my YouTube channel audience, and it was me with my friend. And she started the video as Kelogsloops because people thought
I remember. I remember that video so clearly. It was like, actually, for some reason, I never really thought about it because like when I oh my god, I interrupted. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. No. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever I like find a new artist, I never really think that deep about the gender or anything. I'm just like, yeah, cool work. I loved your work, right? So I found it funny, like when you did the whole thing, I was like, oh my god, like it was so. I remember the video so clearly. Oh, but carry on. I'm sorry. I just really like I just remember. Like, yeah, I remember that clearly.
Yeah, no, that video I remember because when I filmed it, I was terrified because I'd never shed my face before, and I don't know. But I wanted to get more into the YouTube space because I found my videos that people were enjoying them, and I wanted to talk and I wanted to share a bit about my journey because at the time, I was still very new to my art journey. I wasn't actually doing art full time yet. It was still like a growing thing. So I just wanted to put it out there, made the video with my friend, had a good laugh, and the reception to my YouTube videos was very warm and welcoming, and everyone, it was good. So I kept it up, and I just had fun making videos. The main point of it was to share. Yeah.
I said, it's your energy in your videos literally is what captivates people to keep watching. I remember when I first found your video, I was like, oh, he's so fun, like he's so much energy, like I absolutely love your energy. So definitely it radiated through your videos, and I'm sure like clearly, as we can see, lots of people also felt the same way. You definitely reached out there and spoke to a lot of artists. I watched your videos to get into watercolor. Unfortunately, oh my gosh, I had because in the past I wanted to get into like traditional art. I still want to. However, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know what's up with me. I think I'm just really like accustomed to digital art. But like every time I want to get back into watercolor, I always refer to your how to beginner guide to watercolor painting videos, and I always like do the practice that you mentioned, and it always helps me like okay, because like I said, when I discovered your work, I love how like you let your paintings with watercolor specifically, it's like I love how fluid it is, right? Like how there's so much texture and it's so organic, and it just always blows my mind. I don't know how people can control watercolor like that. I just can't. I don't, that's why, like I said, perfect. Love your work, stunning, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Thank you very much.
Once again, been following your journey, and that's why I'm so excited. I am so excited for this art book, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has been waiting. I'm sure you probably have you gotten like questions on like when are we getting an art book? How often do you get that question?
It's been a very long question to be asked. Yeah,
I can bet. But
it's funny that you say that because your story and what you're telling me is exactly how I feel when I first started doing watercolor. Because I was primarily, like when I first started, I was a digital artist, and I hated traditional art. It terrified me, and I remember because it was at the time I was trying to follow the footsteps of like Loish and other digital artists, obsessed, and watercolor terrified me. And then I discovered Agnes Cecile, and for the same way you described my work, I described her work in that same way, and it's what inspired me to give it a go. So
That's crazy. It's funny how much
it was a full flip.
Yeah, it's a full flip right now. Now you're doing the inspiring. Like I love that because most of the times when we're like in our journey during day-to-day lives, we never realize how much of an impact you make, right? You think, oh, okay, I'm just putting a video out there, but you literally in the future, like I could be interviewing another artist that's like, yeah, I got into watercolor because I watched a Kelogsloops video, and it's like a full total 180. It's like, like you could be the reason why another artist is going to be launching their art book in like a few years to come, which is what I love so much about like the social media space, and like how it just brings artists together, and like how art is just a beautiful thing, how one person inspires another, and I'm so glad to be a part of this community. But yeah, speaking of all of that, let's finally take time to like introduce your art book. So can you tell us the name, tell us the reason why you chose that name, just tell us a bit about like the art book.
So the name is it's The Art of Kelogsloops, but the other title is From Sketch to Finish. And there was kind of two meanings when deciding the name. Originally, I kind of wanted to name it "Bring It Back Chasing Dreams," which is my little motto that I use. But so probably a few years ago, I started sharing my creative process on my social media platforms, through my stories usually, and I started this mini series called From Sketch to Finish, and it was where I would share like my little crappy doodle thumbnail sketches from my little sketchbook, and showed everyone how I went from that to the next step, to the color palette testing, to the thumbnail sketching, to the step-by-step stages of my finishing my artwork to a full complete painting, from all the start to the ugly and all that stuff. And the point of it, what I noticed was the main point of it was that I wanted to show people that people always see the end result, which is awesome, it's really cool, but they forget to see that there was a lot of ugly things that led to it. So it's not that we artists just throw paint at a piece of paper and kaboom, it's a masterpiece. No, it's not how it works. It's a slow creative process that you got to trust the patience and trust the process. And that was the main point of it. And I noticed that one of the main feedbacks that I received was that people love seeing the creative process. They love seeing it go from sketch to finish. And if anything, it motivated them, inspired them not to be so harsh on themselves, because everyone was like, oh, wait, my crappy drawings look like his crappy drawings. It's okay. Yeah. And I think that was really warming to hear people say that and they enjoyed it. So that was why I wanted to title it that, because that's kind of what this book does. I show my behind the process of how I started, how I finished my paintings. But the double meaning is it's the whole book. The premise of the book is that I wanted to tell my story of how I started as a beginning artist and a hobby kid at 5 years old to where I am today. So I wanted to show everyone that whole entire journey. Yeah. So in another sense, from sketch to finish, from all the ugly stages.
Okay, I get it.
It's kind of a logical kind of thing.
Yeah, I get definitely. There's a lot of meaning behind that. I absolutely love it. Like you said, some of my favorite videos from you are like your process videos, when you just take time to like explain, I start like this from the sketch, and this is how I mix my colors. It's so informative, and you go so in depth. Like really, I like so much information. So I can only imagine how in depth this book is gonna be. Like, first of all, actually, okay, before I get ahead of myself, tell us a bit about the cover. Like why you like the entire process of coming up with the idea for the cover and the process of creating the cover. Just tell us a bit about that.
So the cover is it's one of my paintings from a show that I did 4 years ago. It was from my exhibition called The Dream, and it's probably one of my favorite paintings I've ever made. I just love that painting, and I thought it was perfect for the cover. I actually had two options. One was that one, which is called Hide and Seek, and another one was called Someday This Dream Will End. And I was tossing up between those two for the cover, mostly because I started really becoming more aware and more intentional about my creative process and documenting it with those paintings, with that show specifically, because it was the first show that I ever really put a lot of effort into the slow thinking and creative process. Like that show, I worked over almost over a year, and it was what I felt was kind of, how do I explain this? It was kind of the starting point of me it was kind of the starting point of where I was really about documenting the creative process from start to finish. So I had a lot of documentive images and a lot of research and a lot of like brainstorming material on the side that I had for these pieces. So that painting especially, there was so much like thought behind it that I thought it was fitting for the cover and also just the concept of from sketch to finish. And it's just a cool painting.
It's a beautiful painting if you ask me. Absolutely stunning. It's like classic Kelogsloops. I love it. Perfect. I mean, I just, like I said, so excited for the book. I'm so, okay. So before I get ahead of myself. So now we've talked about like the title and the cover. Can you tell us a bit, not too much, don't spoil it too much, but tell us what we can expect from the book. Like what's the content of the book?
Okay, alright, okay. So I think this is probably a good way to put it. This is what I mentioned in the very start of the book, and I present a question. So there's this quote that goes along the lines of be the person your younger self needed. And I love that quote. I think it's beautiful. And so when writing this book, the first thing I was trying to keep in mind was what would younger me like to read about becoming an artist? Because younger me dreamt of becoming an artist, never thought it was possible. So that was kind of what I wanted the book to be about, like a little story to myself, to my younger self. And so when I'm writing it, I split it into 3 parts, which I think is fine to tell. So the first third is the creative process. So talking about where I started to my whole journey of becoming an artist. So from schooling, education, to university, to dropping out of my studies, to pursuing my dream, the whole shebang. So that's the first third. I think it's just it's kind of maybe a reminder, maybe it's a story that people can relate to, because I never knew that I wanted to do art from the beginning. And I feel like a lot of people can understand and know how that feels. So that's the first third, which I think is really important for younger me. Would love to know that. The middle part is just my portfolio of my work. So you can expect the gallery of my paintings, you can expect my sketchbook pieces, and you can see it's kind of set in chronological order. So you see the progression from my first watercolor paintings all the way to my most recent ones, and you see the evolution. And I dissect a lot of my thoughts and things that I experimented with, and you really see how everything is like a jigsaw puzzle, and every part comes together into where I am today and how my work is now. That's the second part. And the third and final part is more of an educational and resource part. So you can expect tutorials, and you can expect a full in-depth insight from sketch to finish of 2 of my paintings, I believe. Is that too much of a spoiler? I don't know.
No, it's not. It's perfect. You said just enough to like get people interested to get the book, okay, but not too much that like, I've already seen everything. It's perfect. I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure a lot of people will be excited for the tutorials, but personally, I'm excited for the journey. That's one of my favorite parts of reading like art of books, is the journey. Like because I always feel so inspired after reading an art book. It's like I can definitely get to where you are. So like you said, I love the quote, be the person who your younger you wanted to. I absolutely love that, because I think as we grow, we tend to always forget like why we started doing this in the first place, like why we started drawing, why we all like, as a kid, you just have so many big ideas. You never like stop yourself from like imagining. And sometimes when you start growing, that energy just like life, I guess, you start losing that spark. But then you're starting to be like, I don't think that can happen. But like when you finally do that thing that younger you always dreamed of doing, it's like, I actually did this, like it's possible. And I think a lot of people right now, no matter where they are, no matter what age, might have forgotten that, like that inner spark of like a child. They've forgotten that like it's possible to do what you want to do. And I think reading people's stories of people actually achieving that is very helpful to make them remember that like, no, it's possible. Like it doesn't have to be just a dream, right? You can actually like do this. And I absolutely love that. So I'm looking forward to that specifically. I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited to read that.
Yeah.
So
but it's my favorite part too.
Like I think as artists we're drawn to other artists' stories. Like
100%.
it's natural. I don't know. It's just something we're drawn to. Also, like your portfolio, of course, because I think some of the most popular videos on YouTube are like sketchbook tours because people just love seeing the behind the scenes or like seeing what you do in your sketchbook.
So cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure that's another like something that people are also excited for as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I actually the next question was what's your favorite chapter in the book? But you already said. But it's fine.
Yeah, easily, yeah. No, so the favorite chapter is the creative process, the creative journey. It's like originally it was only meant to be like 5 to 10 pages, and I ended up just absolutely just yapping.
That's fine. I love that.
And I remember, so I even wrote to the editor because I was writing the draft, and I was like, to Ree, she's the editor of the book, and I told her, I'm so sorry for rambling. I'm so sorry. Like, please forgive me for having to have you read so much of my text. But she really enjoyed it, and it's my favorite part because when I was writing it, it made me go back and look on everything that had happened. I think, like, as you live, you do day to day, you kind of forget where you started, where you came from. And so right now I'm in a really awesome place in my career. I'm very excited to be where I am. But having to step back and just look back on everything and just look back at old memories and old drawings, it made me really teary. So I was getting really, really sentimental. And it was a bit of like a pat on the shoulder moment, kind of a pinch me, this is a dream thing. So I got quite sappy writing it. And I had to warn Ree, the editor, like, is this too sappy? I felt like it was too personal. And she said, it's going to be fine, I'm sure it's fine. And eventually she actually did a proofread of it. And apparently she cried. So I was like, damn!
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I think good.
Like, I don't think there's anything like too sappy. I love the emotional stuff. Like, that's what gets
too.
Like,
I do, but I've read other artists' art books, and I'm like, no. They're a lot more matter of fact. If anything, and they just tell a story. And I'm just a yapper, so I kept thinking like, am I just thinking it's too personal and too yappy? Like, I don't know. I'm a bit oversharing. I don't know. But Ree liked it. Ree loved it. So I think it's okay. I hope.
I'm sure it's perfect. I'm sure it's just fine. So yeah, it's. I'm excited to read it, and also I was curious actually when you said. I just lost my train of thought right now. Because when you were speaking, I had like 3 things I wanted to say at the same time, and now I've just lost I just lost my train of thought because like when you got like I was going to talk about like when you were going through your like I'm sure when you were trying to gather everything for the book, you were looking at some old work, like and there's so much nostalgia coming from that like. I just wanted to just know like how's that process like looking back at old work and like just seeing how far you've come. How did that feel? How was that process like in general, like when you were picking like okay, this should go into the book, this should go into this maybe, because I'm sure you had like lots of stuff you could include, but there's definitely a limit. So yeah, how was that process like?
It was, well, to answer, there's 2 parts to the question. So how was it picking things? Difficult, insanely difficult. There's so much material that like, because I have sketchbooks from since all the way back to like 2007, and they're like fully filled out, drawing scribbles of my younger self and what I used to draw. I wanted to put them all in. I wanted to show people that this is where you start. This is how you get to where you want to be. But I didn't involve it because obviously there's hundreds of other images that need to be included for the book. So it was an impossible task. It was so hard. But how I felt about going back, bittersweet, nostalgic, and just this one, I had a recurring thought and feeling of like, I know it's kind of cliche, but it was this thought and feeling of younger me would probably like slap me in the face or cry or scream to even think of like where he is 10 years, 20 years forward. I never would have imagined any of this. Like it was crazy. It's crazy. And so I kept thinking of like, 12-year-old me, like, he's drawing anime characters. Look what he's doing now. It's very cool. Beautiful. It was very full circle, sentimental, nostalgic, teary. Yeah, it was nice.
It's beautiful. I am like, you're making me very excited and so emotional. But I'm like I said, shook my table. But yeah, perfectly. I'm sure the art book is gonna just encapsulate all of that and encapsulate your journey. And you can also think of it like a time capsule, right? Like this is like a book from my life, my journey, my art, like, you know, how becoming an artist. And I think that's what makes art books so special and unique. So we're almost at the end of the interview. We're a little bit over 30 minutes, which is fine. We're on schedule. I love asking this question at the end of every interview because the art journey is bumpy, right? Like nothing is ever straightforward. And there are lots of highs, but there are also lots of lows. So I want to ask you, if you're okay, if you're comfortable answering, what was your highest moment while working on this book? Whatever that might be. And also, what was the lowest moment while working on the book? And how did you like come to overcome that moment? I'm sure, because now that the book is announced, is out there, I'm sure like it's like, oh, finally this worked out. But like, what were some of your highest and lowest moments? Just because not everything is like a bed of roses. What was the like, or your most difficult, or what did you struggle on the most, just in general? You can take your time to think of the question. Just
yeah, hold on. Honestly, like easily the best part was. Oh, actually, I don't know. Actually, that's kind of hard one. The best. Okay. The best part. The highlight, I think, 100% the highlight was like 2 weeks ago. So I got sent the first mock-up images and drafts of what the book was going to look like from the designer Joe. And, he did an incredible job because it made me want to cry. I didn't cry, but I was very teary. And it was insane. Like, I knew that the book was going to happen. I knew we were working on the book. We've been working this for so long, so many months. I knew it was a thing. But seeing it, even just mocked up and how it would look like in real world, like a physical book, it kind of just made it feel a bit more real. It's not real yet, but it just made it feel like it was a realization of just, oh my God, this is happening. Like, this book is really going to be a thing. Like, this thing that I've worked on for the past X months, but also for the past 20 years of my life, it's all coming together into this little thing. So that was the highlight because it was just like a full circle moment again. It just made me feel like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Like, it wasn't even real, but seeing it come together was insanely beautiful. But in terms of the lowest point or the most difficult point of the book, honestly, there wasn't never really a low because, like again, I'm very blessed or privileged with this opportunity that I was like, I loved working on it. Obviously, it was hard because there was a lot of hours. I was doing it back to back. It was a lot I was thinking about for weeks on end, for months on end. But it never felt like I wanted to call it quits. Like, I was excited. I knew it was happening. I knew it was exciting putting it all together. So there wasn't really a low. So I'm still trying to think of like an actual low.
That's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, every project is different, right? Some projects go a lot more smooth than others, and like some is like the entire process is just chaotic and that's totally fine.
It's not that it was smooth because I was behind deadlines a lot. Sorry, really bad for Ree and Joe.
But when you're juggling a bunch of stuff at the same time, it's obviously like you kind of, some things fall behind. It's only natural. Yeah,
I guess the hardest part was just having to drop other things and just kind of fall behind on life to work on the book because it was so urgent. So it's not really a low.
No, that's fine. That's like I said. The most important thing is like the journey is here. It's been done. And we're finally here. That's the most important thing. Now that we're almost done, like I said, I just have one last question for you, and that is your general advice for fellow aspiring artists, especially now. Lots of artists really need to hear some positive words of advice. So, yeah.
Cliche again, but ultimately, my biggest advice is to trust the process. So. And I think especially in this current age and time, it's very easy to feel like you're part of a rat race. So, especially on social media where you see everything, you see all these incredible artists and people achieving insane successes, it's very easy to look ahead of you and look at the back of someone ahead of you and be like, oh crap, I'm falling behind in this race. I'm never going to catch up. And you're always looking at other people's backs, and it sucks, and it's demoralizing, and it's demotivating, and sometimes you want to drop out of the race. It's honestly crippling. Even I get that to this day. I look at a lot of artists, and I'm like, oh God, I'm so far behind. They're so much better. You always feel that. But then you have to always remember to look back over your shoulder, and you'd be surprised at how many people are behind you looking at your back thinking the same thing. You have to look back and realize how far you've come, and to also know that there are people who are inspired by you with whatever you're doing, and people who are motivated by you, whether it's creative or whatever you do day to day, you as a person, at least maybe for me at least, in terms of an artist perspective, I think it's really important to look back every once in a while and be like, damn, I came pretty far. That's probably my best advice. Trust the process and just keep going.
From sketch to finish. Perfect. I love that. That's like I absolutely love that. Perfect. Well, anyways, that's the end of the video. Those are all my questions I have for you today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for the book, and thank you so much. Like I said, I love your energy. It's beautiful. I'm so thankful, and I cannot wait for the book. So yeah,
I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.